Here at Unfinished Business Television, we are proud affiliate partners of the website Super 7, the home of many famous, nostalgic action figures and apparel. If you could support the show, it would come a long way using the promo code AJEpics whenever you purchase anything in their store, and we love all of their amazing toys. So support Super 7 and please support Unfinished Business Television.
MGM presents A Christmas Story.
Perfect.
Uncle! Come on!
The movie that sends up Santa Claus.
Ho, ho, ho.
A Christmas Story, rated PG. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unfinished Business Television. I am your host, Jeff Galashaw at Unfinished B2 on social media. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Andre Joseph of AJEpics Productions.
In the immortal words of the great Gene Shepard, only one thing in the world could have dragged me away from the soft glow of electric sex gleaming in the window.
That gives you a hint as to what movie we will be talking about on this deep dive, a special holiday episode. We're going to be talking about the well-remembered classic that comes on every year, especially if you have TBS, A Christmas Story, starring Peter Billingsley, Peter Billingsley, Darren McGavin, and Melinda Dillon, directed by Bob Clark. And with us, a return guest to the show, a friend of the show, April Bruckner.
Hello. Oh my God, I love A Christmas Story. And here's the thing. I know that they play it to death on TBS, but it is a modern classic, don't you guys think?
Oh, yes, definitely
It's
agree.
timeless.
And what I love about it, and this is just, and I'm a literary snob, is it's based off of Gene Shepard's book. It's based off of him growing up. And I like a lot of adaptions because I feel like writers are the most under-celebrated group in the business. Because here's the thing. Everybody says writers are a pain in the ass, and Oliver Stone was a pain in the ass on the set of Scarface. They actually had to ban him. Okay, Brian De Palma wanted him out of there. All right. And writers can be very protective of their words. But on the flip side, actors wouldn't have work without writers. We wouldn't have television without writers. We wouldn't have books without writers. We wouldn't have so many things without writers. The world wouldn't function without writers. And so the fact that Gene Shepard wrote this book and it became a hell of an adaptation and it's become a classic, it's given me faith in humanity.
I mean, I think for me personally, it's one of those movies that even before they started doing the marathons, I remember watching it in school, watching it at my grandma's apartment. And obviously, like a lot of kids in America, we were all Ralphie. There was always that one toy we wanted at a Christmas. And even just everything he goes through from being bullied at school or, joking around behind the teacher's back, the things that go on during Christmas dinner. I mean, especially Alone, like how everything gets all screwed up because of the neighbor's dogs coming into the kitchen, and then they end up having to have their Christmas dinner at a Chinese restaurant. That's at least happened once in our lifetimes with our family Christmases. At least it's
Or oh yes, the dinner ruined, and the kid that sticks his tongue to the telephone to the pole. Everybody has one. Everybody has one kid where we're looking at the world now and we're wondering why Trump's president. And we're wondering, how people could fail an open book test in school. It was that kid. It was that kid who stuck his tongue to the telephone pole. This is him as an adult. We all know that kid.
And I mean, I've also done that myself too. Fortunately, I didn't.
Oh no. Oh my God, no, please don't do that again. And and those pajamas, I love those pajamas. And the Christmas pajamas were always big for me growing up. That's why I love the little pajamas, the onesie. And
Mhm.
I'll still admit, if they sell that onesie, I want that onesie.
I'm sure somewhere there definitely have to still sell that. Just like I know they still sell the leg lamp. I'm sure around the holidays it's a bestseller, and I know Macy's usually has it in their window around the holidays also. Mm.
And Halloween Adventure, it was I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was like 14th between on the 14th and 2nd in New York City. They sold that leg lamp all year round. It's like that lamp. I mean, who hasn't ordered the leg lamp?
I mean, this film it's not it's at this point nostalgic and it's fun to hear other people's memories of the film. This is one of the films I remember earliest going to see in a movie theater. So that's why like it's always been so special to me. And I mean, without this film, there would be no Wonder Years, which
No.
obviously is based on this film. And it's just so interesting that like this film originally came out during Thanksgiving in 1983. And
Mhm.
then, but they pulled it from theaters saying that it had been played out by Christmas, but there was such a high demand for it that the studio was forced to release it just due to a popular demand of people wanting to see it on the big screen that year around the holidays. Mm.
And it's because it's so relatable, and especially with bullying now. Poor Ralphie, he's dealing with this bully. He fights the bully and he stands up for himself, but gets his glasses cracked and he thinks, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. And his mom just, she doesn't like, she's more concerned that he's okay and everything's going to be all right. But it shows that the world really hasn't changed and we're having the conversation. And and obviously I wasn't a boy, but my brother got into a share of fights growing up because that's just the way boys rolled back in the day. Boys fight. And and so, but there's always the I'm gonna get in trouble, and it's like, no, you're not gonna get in trouble. You stood up to a bully. And I'm just thinking, good for little Ralphie. He got these glasses, he's kind of funny looking, and bam. And that's what this generation needs. They need to learn to go bam.
Yes, because yeah, well, not to get too political, but Trump can be seen as the Scott Farkus of
Mhm.
today's time.
He's Scott Farkus. He's freaking Scott Farkus. And the kid that put his tongue on the telephone pole voted for Scott Farkus for president. Yes, like that's where we're at.
Well, I was rewatching it. One of my favorite rewatches because it was just a pleasure to see the film even before Thanksgiving, where it's going to be on all the time anyway. But I always watching the film. I'm wondering, when did you think that his parents decided to officially get him the Red Ryder BB gun? Because I'm wondering if it after that fight and seeing Ralphie how emotional he got beating up Scott Farkas, that the mother maybe finally decide, okay, let's get him the BB gun? Or do you think beforehand they had made that decision to already get the BB gun for him?
That's a deep question. Um, and I've never thought about it, but I think he was always going to get the BB gun because when you think about it, Ralph was a good little kid. He's trying his little best. He's in this little Americana town, and this town could be anywhere USA, and that's what makes it perfect. But I think he was a good kid, and I think he was always going to get the BB gun, but it was kind of hush hush. We don't want to tell him he's going to get the BB gun. And I'm sure that you've had a toy like that when you were a kid, and your parents are like, "Hush, hush, we don't let him know that he's going to get the BB gun." Well, I think he was always going to get the BB gun. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you have that line after he gets the gun when the old man is like, "Oh yeah, I had one when I was 8 years old." I maybe from the start he kind of knew that he was going to do that. And there wasn't any like particular moment in the film, and that kind of leads me to Darren McGavin because as a kid I'm always focused on Ralphie and I'm focused on Scotty Schwartz and the rest of the young cast. Never so much the parents as much. And even though I don't have kids and I'm not married, I mean I'm looking at the adult actors now because obviously seeing them in other things, seeing Melinda Dillon in Close Encounters, seeing Darren McGavin in, that TV show he was in the 70s, as well as Billy Madison playing Adam Sandler's dad, and he was in Raw Deal with Schwarzenegger as like an FBI buddy. And it's like watching him, he brings a smile to my face because he looks like he could be that hardened father, but he
Mhm.
really cares about his family. And
Oh yeah.
just like a fun and joy that honestly, if they had gone with the original consideration
Hmm.
was Jack Nicholson,
No, no, that
Yep.
would have been so wrong.
yeah.
Here's Ralphie. No. And he was the better choice for the father. I agree because when you see him, and at least for me, and being older and watching the film, I see so much in my dad where they're just trying to work, they're doing their best, they have a job that's demanding, they have kids, it doesn't stop, and you often wonder if they stay at work because their kids are such a handful and they're hiding from their wife and kids, but he's trying his best, and he's trying to be a dad. And it's just like, when something happens, he's like, you handle it. That's what he says to the mom. He's like, you handle it. It's like that kind of thing. And that's the way my dad would be like, you talk to her. I can't deal with it.
Well, that's another, as Andre was saying, that's another beautiful aspect as you get older. Even though the focus is supposed to be the kids, as you get older, you focus on more of the adult characters. And, I mean, even when you were a kid, you knew this, but that whole Santa Claus in the mall sequence is such nightmare inducing because, the elves are like being
Oh,
mean
God, yes.
and the
Yes.
Santa just wants to get out of there
Oh,
already.
God. Oh
And
God, yes. I know so many things about the elves and Santa. Having been an actor in New York for so many years, there are a lot of Santas there that are drunks. There are a lot of elves that are drunks. These are all out of work actors. They're all like one step away from, like, some of them are on probation, not for for other things. And it's just like they're all nuts and they just want to get out of there. And my niece, and this is my older niece, the one that's 5, her first time seeing Santa, she freaked out. She was screaming. She wanted my sister to get her out of there. The elves were too much for her. Yeah.
well, they have more makeup on than Santa usually does.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but
And
what? Oh, go ahead. Mm.
oh, and yeah, and we had a Santa at our mall growing up where Santa was kind of liquored up, and my mom was like, "Was Santa drunk?" Probably.
I believe it. I mean, I haven't gone to see a mall Santa in so long, but I remember. Well, at least my experiences were good, and I was just like, how does he have time, in the year to make all these appearances, for kids to sit on his lap, but.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there was one time I was little and I sat on Santa's lap and Santa's like, "What do you want, little girl?" And I was like, "I want this and that. Can you get that for me, Santa?" And I was like 4. And my mom was like getting me out of there. And she told me the story later. And I said, "Santa, how do you go to so many places in one night? And if you're so fat, how do you get down the chimney?" Like, I would not stop. And it's just like, but my mom was like, "Come on, April, Santa's got to talk to other people."
Oh man. But with A Christmas Story, I feel a little sorry for the kid cast because since they're so well remembered, they've all had other acting jobs, but this is probably the job they've always been, praised for or brung back to. I mean, Peter Billingsley has been now a writer, producer for so many years, but this is what everybody brings back. So much so that they made that sequel on Max a few years ago with an adult Ralphie, and it doesn't quite have the magic. But I think that's also because A Christmas Story feels like it comes out of nowhere, but it's so
Mhm.
easily identifiable. Like this wasn't like today's Christmas movies where it's like, hey, we've got a thing for you kids, starring this person, tons of special effects. This was back in the day where it seemed more, I guess Christmas felt a little more sacred and identifiable for everyone. You know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing too is this is a story that everybody can relate to. And so special effects and everything else would destroy that. This is a Christmas that, regardless of who you are, what you look like, how you identify, what your gender is, gender identity, etc., you can identify with. You have had it, and I see so much of my mom in the mom where she's just trying to do the best she can with what she has. And she has these crazy and kids are nuts. Kids are crazy. I was crazy, you were crazy, we're all crazy. And she's just trying her little best. And the beautiful thing is that, and I go back to the scene where Ralphie gets into the fight with Scott Farkas, as Ralphie thinks he's going to be in trouble. He's not going to get his BB gun, and that just is so sweet. Or she just takes care of him because guess what? Maybe she doesn't like him fighting or whatever, because no parent likes their kid getting into a fight. But she was young too. She gets it. She knows she's met a Scott Fargus. She's met the Mean Girls. And she knows sometimes you gotta give him a punch. And he gets his BB gun, and parents are people too. And it's like it wasn't and when we're kids, we just think of our parents as adults. We don't think, oh my God, they had a whole life before we came along. Like we just think of them as adults. We don't think, oh my God, they were kids. And even as I got older, I heard stories about my dad getting drunk and wild, and I'm like, my dad.
Here's another interesting question. Do you think the mother actually broke the lamp intentionally, or was it an accident?
Oh, she broke that intentionally. She's a woman.
Because that is still a controversy after all these years. But also, it was interesting finding out, like, Darren McGavin, all that gibberish when he's fighting the boiler is actually ad-lib gibberish, as is his line about the Energizer Bunny, because he had to make up something because it was scripted. But even he said that if I start using like bad language in this gibberish, this is going to stop being a PG movie because it's going to sound real. I can't fake, cursing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, but sometimes ad libs are the greatest part of a movie. Like Dirty Work, Don Rickles ad libbed that whole scene, House Party, Robin Harris, when he comes in, ad libbed all that. And so sometimes it's like, and this is just a fun fact, like actors do quote unquote improv and they have it as a part of your training in acting school. And it's not so much to be funny, but you're going to have moments on stage where somebody legitimately forgets a line, something else happens, and it helps you be in the moment. Like Sammy Davis Jr. in that famous episode in All in the Family, he kissed Carol O'Connor live. That was not planned. So some of that stuff is just beautiful. It's gold. And because it's so close to the script and it honors the story, it works. It's not like they left the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
I also think about like rewatching it the other day, the whole Little Orphan Annie Secret Dakota Ring part.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and the reveal, like all that suspense, and it's just, oh, drink your Ovaltine. And I'm thinking about, weirdly enough, the documentary about the kid who tried to get the Pepsi jet. He bought all that Pepsi to get all those Pepsi points, thinking he was going to get that million points to get the big jet in the commercial. And at the end, he sends the thing out to Pepsi, and they're like, "Oh, this is a free coupon for like more Pepsi."
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's corporate sponsorship. And even though this is set in like the 50s, it's like even then it was all a scam. Like, cause I just remember the Little Orphan Annie, drink your Ovaltine. And he's like so intent on solving the puzzle. And he's like the American consumer, drink your Ovaltine. And I was so, and now being so close to the business, I'm like, of course, Ovaltine spent a lot of money on that spot. Of course they want you to drink your freaking Ovaltine, Ralphie. But then, you're also a kid and he doesn't see behind the curtain and he's like, drink my Ovaltine. And so, but I'm wondering if I should drink my Ovaltine now.
Yeah, it's also just that I think that's what's also universal is the details in the film. Like every night they eat meatloaf, red cabbage, and mashed potatoes. The only time they don't is on Christmas Day. And the old man thirsting after that turkey until the Bumpus's dogs ruin the day. And I also think it's interesting. We never actually see the Bumpuses this whole movie. So they're like the Borg on Star Trek. They're just this fantasy thing that you're always hearing about and always wondering, but what do they look like? I mean, eventually Star Trek had to show them, but at least in this movie, they always stay those phantom bumpkin neighbors with a lot of dogs.
Oh yeah, and I think that that actually it makes them an effective character because you never see them. And that's what made Jaws magical is you never saw Jaws. It was a happy accident. And in my so-called life, you only heard about Rico, but you never saw him. And so you
Oh
always hear
yes.
about the bum kisses and their dogs, but you never see them. And it just, but we all have that neighbor that annoys the crap out of us when we were kids. And for my babysitter growing up, real quick, it was this family called the Holleriches. And I heard about the Holleriches so much, and I never met them, but I felt like I knew them. And they had a bunch of dogs too. So whenever think about the Bumpkins, I think about the Holleriches, and they were literally the neighbors from hell for my babysitter. And I would just hear about them so much. And I went to her house once, and the Holleriches didn't come out, but I saw their yard and I heard these dogs, and that's all I needed to hear.
It's like the Gooch on Different Strokes.
Yes, yes. Oh God, yes.
Well, I also think another beautiful quality for the film is that now as an adult, and if you have kids, you can identify with the film from the parents' point of view, but also for the kids' point of view, it plays like a human cartoon, especially all of Ralphie's fantasies, where
Yeah.
we're like used to seeing the old man as this more stern and serious, but like even in the dream sequence when he goes blind from Life Boy, he's sitting there just crying, like, "Oh, I told you not to use that version," and just like it's a tragedy, and
Oh
or when
God, yeah. Yes.
when he's whimpering when the burglars come in that fantasy, it just shows that the cast was all game, for whatever was thrown at them. And
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's so identifiable having two little nieces now. My older one is 5, and she's got a heck of an imagination. And if she doesn't end up at FIT or RISD someday, I will be shocked because she's always drawn doing this. And so, but she has this imagination, and one day her Minecraft crashed. Okay, she plays Minecraft, and she forgot to save her world, and she's crying. And she had a nightmare that something happened with Minecraft and this and that happened. And sometimes my brother-in-law's a great dad, nice guy, but he'll be like, Brooke, I told you not to do that. And so I can see her turning into a little Ralphie. It's pretty funny.
oh man. And now this film was a hit when it was released. I'm just wondering, when did it become officially a holiday classic that TBS knew, okay, we're just going to do a marathon after Thanksgiving every year of 24 hours of this movie, so that no matter what time of day, anybody, whatever time they wake up or start watching television, they will always see it. And
I think they
Yeah.
started doing marathons in '97, as I recall.
Mhm. Yeah.
mm,
That sounds about right. Yeah, and not because I was going to say the '90s. Yeah, because it's like a lot of films are hits, and this is where a film kind of stands the test of time. Like there are some films that come out and bam, they're huge hits, and you don't hear about them anymore. Like but then there are some films that are just timeless, and I think it was the '90s when this started to become a classic. I agree.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think so because Bob Clark, he ended up making a sequel. What was it? It Runs in the Family with Charles
Oh
Grodin
yeah.
and Mary Steenburgen playing Ralphie's parents. Everybody had to be recast except for the teacher. And I didn't. I remember seeing the ads. I didn't know this was a sequel to A Christmas Story, so I definitely
Oh,
know I saw the movie before that. And the funny thing with Bob Clark, who knew at that time? You watch this movie as a kid, this is the same guy who did Porky's and Black Christmas, and then goes on to do Rhinestone with Stallone and Dolly Parton and Loose Cannons with Gene Hackman. Like the
oh.
strange journeyman career, and yet this is like the movie he's most remembered for, and it's like arguably the best film he ever made. It's just really mind-boggling to know that a horror movie director did this, and actually, no studio wanted to make the movie initially, not until he agreed to make a horror movie in exchange for getting this made. And I don't know if he ever did that horror film, but I thought that was pretty wild to find out.
Well, and
Well,
actually, go on.
oh no, I was just going
Oh,
to say that basically, if it wasn't for Porky's, he would have never gotten this movie made either. And because of the success of those films gave him enough clout that any dream project he wanted to try to make, they would be willing to maybe make it.
Well, and actually, and I know he's had sort of a strange journeyman career, but the thing about horror movie directors that I find, at least the good ones, is they have a great grasp of story. Okay. And because if you don't have a good grasp of story, and a veteran screenwriter told me this that worked on the original Creep Show,
Hmm.
you don't make a good film. And a lot of horror films, because there's so much gore, guts, killing, explosion, whatever, you have to keep the story going no matter what, because we watch for the story, right? And a lot of horror films are like westerns in the way that they're morality tales. And so they actually, when they do it right, make excellent directors. And when you think of it, Ralphie is the hero's journey. Okay. He's this little guy. We've all been Ralphie. Okay. And he's going through the things kids go through, and all he wants is this BB gun, and he's trying his best. And there's this whole world around him. And while it's not ghosts, goblins, ghouls, killers, it's life. And sometimes life can be hard. And he makes Ralphie very sympathetic. And the choice he made just to make it straight without any effects, just to make it a story, was very powerful. And so he was the best director for this. And I don't think horror directors get enough clout.
Agreed. Oh, another thing I think that was smart of director Bob Clark is making basically Ralphie's little brother the perfect prop throughout. Just
Mhm.
in some scenes, if you just watch his reactions to things, he's so over the top that it's cute but yet hilarious, and it works for
Yes.
the themes. And
And it's a younger sibling. If you've had a younger sibling, you're like, yep.
Yeah, and then I think the other thing I would say is Billingsley is just perfect as Ralphie. He fits the period in the look and the performance.
Yes.
I can't see anybody else do this. I mean, they said they looked at Keith Coogan, Sean Astin, Will Wheaton. I don't think they would have held a candle to what Billingsley did. And we just mentioned before, like, one of the few child actors that didn't end up having a troubled life after this. I mean, he did a couple of things afterwards and then became a successful producer. I believe he produced Elf, he produced Iron
Mhm.
Man, he's been in the MCU, like he's still doing this. And he's another one, kind of like with Keith Kwai Kwan. I smile when I see him on screen, even as an adult.
um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. Also, another, see, now we're slipped right out of my head what I was gonna say. It'll come back. Anybody
Take a
want
breath. It's there. It's there.
it's like, it's the casting. Oh, Gene Shepard has to be given a lot of credit, because if it wasn't for his narration in the film, which is comedic in of itself, because he has such an original and strange kind of lilt in his voice when he's narrating his own work. I don't think it would be as memorable if, like, let's say they did the modern thing of getting a well-known actor of the time to do a voiceover. It wouldn't have been as strong, because you're just wondering who, not only who's this character Ralphie, but who is this voice that has all these strange like inflections when they're telling the story of like an older man, but also in the moment of like being a child character. And he cameos as the guy who has to tell Ralphie, this is the front of the line, you have to get in the back of the line in the film. And it's just like it's that magic moment of, and also you as a kid you don't notice it, but when you get older it's like, wait, that's the same voice of the narrator, and then you realize it comes full circle, like, oh, that's him, so that's what he actually looks like in real life. And I know his wife played the woman right behind him, and for years, also, this is a separate subject, but the going back to the line, I always thought that the kid in front of Ralphie who kept staring at him was a little girl for some odd reason. And only recently did I realize, oh, that's supposed to be a boy. Especially the scream didn't help soon as they sat on Santa's lap. So I always thought
Oh
it was
my God. Oh yeah. Well, and actually, and I gotta give, and I'm just gonna give Gene Shepard credit again, is he wrote a hell of a book. And like I said before, nothing would exist without writers. And he wrote a hell of a book, and he's narrating it. And of course, it works that he's narrating it because one, it's his work, and two, and this is also what makes it identifiable, is if, and he did a Stephen King by making a cameo, but we but have you ever told a story about being a kid and something happened, you felt like it was the end of the world, and it was a big heartbreak, but you're telling the story and it's funny now? It's like, you wanted to see, I don't know, some sort of movie and or something, and it just, or one story in particular was a friend of mine went to see the Backstreet Boys and she thought Nick Carter was pointing directly at her and she was convinced he was pointing at her, not that he was trained. But she tells the story, but I tell the story now and she tells the story and it's just funny. That's what makes it work, is we all have told those stories and the best stories are not the ones where we shine. Okay. Like they're not the best stories later on.
Agreed.
And I think that's the thing that makes it so memorable is that it's like unlike a lot of Christmas movies that have to like play one straight narrative. I mean, obviously the through line is Ralphie wants the BB gun, but all the vignettes in between and all the little subplots, it really just makes it feel like, this is what Christmas really is. It's just a series of chaotic events and things that go on at work, things that go on at school and in the household. And yet, it's just those experiences that we remember for a lifetime. And I think that's one of the reasons why it still holds up. This could be made in any particular time frame,
Yep.
and it still continues to resonate.
Oh yeah. And the other thing that I like about this too is the trap that Christmas movies get in, and it makes me want to vomit as a writer, is Christmas is about family. Christmas is about love. And all these dysfunctional relationships where people don't talk, we're all going to be friends at the end of the movie and we're going to forget about all that toxic stuff you did earlier. Christmas Story doesn't do that. It's a kid, it's Christmas, and his parents are who they are. Okay. They're two people that aren't perfect that are trying. And this is a family that's trying. And that's all these people can do is try. And that's what makes it work. Is they don't try to solve any problems. And Christmas movies have become this mill for bored Midwestern people. And I'm just gonna say it. Screw it if they're watching. Bored Midwestern people that don't know movies, and they treat this audience like it's stupid. They punch him in the nose. Like they Scott Farkus their audience, okay? Where here, they say to their audience, hey, these people are like you. They're not perfect. They're trying their best. They burn the turkey. They go to the Chinese restaurant. La 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 la. In the Chinese restaurant, they celebrate Christmas too. Everybody wants to be a part of it. They're a community. They're not perfect. They're trying. They want to be a part of this community's fabric too. And these are people that are nothing alike. They don't hate each other. They're working together. And like, let's just be who we are at Christmas. And that's what makes the movie work.
100%.
Agreed. Yeah, because even during the film, I mean, obviously Ralphie's a kid. He's our protagonist, but he's not perfect. He screws
Nope.
up plenty of times during the film, but we still like him nonetheless. I mean, I know there's the big scene where he says the F word, but he's saying son of a bitch when he finds out that little orphan Annie is just a commercial. So he's like throughout this film still doing what he's not supposed to do.
Well,
And
and he's a kid, and kids don't do what they're supposed to do. And both of my nieces are good kids, but they're kids, and kids don't do what they're supposed to do because they're kids. And the little one, and I love her dearly. She's my god baby, but whenever I turn my neck back, like whenever I turn this way, she's doing something. She's doing something because she doesn't think I'll see her. And I see her because I was doing something at that age, and I had my mouth washed out when I was a kid with soap. That's not pleasant. Those were the good old days before your parents could get in trouble for that. Now they'd send them away. Now everybody would be down their throat. But the point is the kids do that. Kids are kids. Like, yeah. And so Ralphie's not perfect. And if he was perfect, we want to punch him too. Okay. We want to start Farkas him. But because he's not perfect, we're like, yeah, that makes us love you more, Ralphie, because I always screwed up when I was a kid. I still screw up as an adult. Hell.
true. And well, I mean, again, it runs in the family. It's kind of a sequel to this film, but also there's the Disney Channel's Ollie Hoopnagel's Haven of Bliss is another one with an older Ralphie, I think at 15, played by Jerry O'Connell, in his first summer job. And while these don't have the magic of A Christmas Story, they're worth checking out for any fans of this film also.
I have mixed feelings about that because on one hand, while I feel like those would be wonderful adaptions. On the other hand, like I feel like A Christmas Story is so perfect that it should be It's a Christmas Story, and then Ralphie went on to be a writer because you can see this little boy growing up to be a writer because he's just so colorful, right?
Hmm.
But on the flip side, it's like The Wizard of Oz. They made Return to Oz with Fairuza Balk, who I thought was a wonderful actress. But it's like, guys, even if this was the best film in the world, it just wasn't going to work without Judy Garland. It wasn't going to work without Margaret Hamilton. It wasn't going to work without Billy Burke. It was not going to work without the original cast. And so, why do people always try to put lightning in a bottle why can't they just celebrate a miracle? Like, why can't they just celebrate Mary? Okay, why do you have to keep seeing Mary and diluting the message, you know?
True.
I
And
mean, I thought it was insulting when they did that straight to video Christmas Story sequel with Daniel Stern as the old man, and it was like
Ooh.
Ralphie was like 16 getting his first car. And clearly, I think they even tried to air it one year on TBS, and nobody
Oh,
liked this movie.
the horror, the humanity.
Yeah.
well, didn't they try to do A Christmas Story live on Fox one year too?
Yeah, they did. I
Yeah,
never
Yeah.
that was
watched it
no.
though.
No.
I watched it for a few minutes and I turned it off because here's the thing. It's like everybody's always trying to replicate what works. And I understand because one showbiz axiom, if you've ever worked with agents or managers, is they tell you nobody ever gets fired for saying no, is the first thing. And second, everybody in Hollywood, ironically, is afraid to do something new because something new might bomb. But if people know it, they go to see it. And even on Broadway, the newer musicals don't always play. Like they don't like even the ones that win Tonys that are artistic successes, they don't get the asses in seats that something like an Anything Goes does. But here's the thing. Well, everybody knows the story and that's good. They know the story. It's not good because you ruin the story by doing stuff like this. You ruin this. And I think Daniel Stern is a great actor, but he's the wrong choice for Ralphie's old man. You'd be better off at having Jack Nicholson. Here's Ovaltine. Here's Orphan Annie.
Yeah, even like the new one that had Billingsley in it. I mean, it was probably one of the better sequels that they did, but still didn't feel right because you didn't have Melinda Dillon playing the mother. I guess she was retired and probably in her health decline at that point. And you have Julie Haggerty from Airplane. It felt awkward to me to watch that.
Oh, absolutely. And casting is everything. And that's the part of the business that they don't talk about enough in acting school. They're so busy telling you about technique and this and that. Casting is everything. It's like, for instance, uh Shirley Temple was almost Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. That would have been the wrong choice. Okay. Jack Nicholson was almost the father here. That would have been the wrong choice. And so, but what made The Christmas Story so effective was they had a good casting director. Who said, okay, like, because sometimes, and this is another thing that people don't realize, is when a casting director sees an actor that they like and they think is perfect, they will go to bat for that actor and sometimes will butt heads with the director or producer because they see something the director and producer doesn't, because their job is okay, it's placing people and it's showing them a wide variety of choices. That mother and that father absolutely looked like they could be married. Okay. Like that was one of the things. There was chemistry there. Like you could see him as that married couple where, yeah, they loved each other, but they also got married because that's what you did then. All right. You got married. All right. If you liked somebody well enough, you got married. They tolerated each other enough to raise kids together. They appreciated each other. I don't know if it was love, but it worked. And the father loved his family, but he was working his ass off because that's what you did. The mother was trying her best. These kids were who they were. They lived in this town. They were believable as a family and they even looked alike. Okay. Like they looked like they could be a family. They acted like a family. And there was a dynamic and a chemistry there. Whereas with another group of actors, that just is, you can't replicate that.
Yeah, so Jeff, I mean, I don't know if we can even say we recommend this or not. Obviously, it's a staple of this world to have Christmas Story every holiday. So, I mean, it's a national treasure.
It's a
Oh,
world
basically.
treasure, world
Yeah,
treasure. It is a
yeah.
world treasure. Like if you have Christmas in France, you probably know these people. You've probably had these experiences. Christmas in Sydney, Australia, you burn the turkey. Everybody burns the turkey. Everybody, and it's not just America. And even if there's no snow, where you live, so like there's that kid in your class that stuck his tongue to something else, like it's a world treasure.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those Christmas films I don't ever get tired of seeing or watching. More modern audiences, you can have your Elves, your Home Alones, which are fine films, but Christmas Story will be the one. Also for me, Babes in Toyland or March of the Wooden Soldiers, something I can just watch every holiday season and never get tired of seeing.
Yep. It's on, it's Christmas, you're getting your Ovaltine, so to speak. You're sitting in front of the TV and you're like, guys, a Christmas Story's on, let's do this.
So, April, as we wrap up, I understand you recorded a Christmas song this year.
Yes, I recorded a Christmas song. And this is to go with any leg lamp that anybody may order. This is May Wilson. Hello, fellas.
Hey, May.
Right.
I don't have my Ovaltine, but I love chocolate. So anyway, May, tell them about our song. Our song's called Merry Christmas. I'm so glad I didn't marry you. And it's a homage to dating duds of holidays past, and it's available on all streaming platforms. And you dummy, you forgot it's available for download too, to be used on Reels on social media. And May, how many radio stations are playing our song right now? 30 radio stations in the US, the UK, and Australia and New Zealand. And where did it debut? The Kyle and Jackie O Show. That's right, the #1 morning show in Australia on iHeartRadio. So fellas, in case you're wondering, yes, I went down under. So May, what do you want to tell them? April and I recorded a music video. So move over, Mariah Carey. I am the new queen of Christmas. But May, before we introduce the video, do you want to tell them a fun fact about the song? Yes. Costas Dino, our producer, worked on a Grammy-nominated album. And Costas quickly discovered that it took April 3 takes to get it. Yeah, it took me 3 takes. But I got it right on the first take because I'm a star. So we're introducing our music video for Merry Christmas. I'm so glad I didn't marry you. Mwah.
Okay, everyone, let's all listen up. This is going to be the take that's definitely going to be the keeper. So let's do this. Merry Christmas. I'm so glad I didn't marry you. Take 37.
Saint Nick, if I'm naughty, can I be your Santa baby? May, be nice. Let's sing a Christmas song. Whatever ain't wrong. Christmas is the time of the year for love and happiness. Sending Christmas cards to the ones that we love the best. The other day I thought of our love and how you sealed our fate on that third date, making me choose between my puppets and you. Listen! Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I'm so glad I didn't marry you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I still hate you. You're up, May. Christmas is the time of the year for tinsel, sparkles, and pearls. You said I wouldn't have to work if I was your girl. You told me you were a billionaire in cryptocurrency. Then you took me to the Waffle House, so I guess no diamonds for me. Oh, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I'm so glad I didn't marry you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I still hate you.
you my dog. And your ex-wife and your daughter are hogs. And I'm sending your wife that photo of us in the hot tub so you know. Hey, Joe, I hate you. And I hate you. Gary and Frank and Dave and Jim, I hate you all. And I'm putting it on social media, so Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I'm so glad I didn't marry you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I still hate you. You disappointed me under the mistletoe. You had a tiny sleigh and you couldn't make it snow. Hello! Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I'm so glad I didn't marry you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Your father's a Grinch and your mother's a shrew. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Here's some spoiled eggnog for you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I super duper hate you. I super duper hate you. I put it on social media. That's how much I hate you. And I hope everybody reads how much I hate you. And you're broke. And I hate you. And I hate you. And I hope you die. And I hate you. May, calm down. Calm down, please. On second thought, Santa, what if I'm naughty and nice? Can I jingle your bells? Give it a rest, May. Whatever, April. Thank you, fellas.
See you, May. And until next time. So before we leave, anybody can call in any last thoughts or your favorite memories or favorite scene from a Christmas Story.
Oh gosh. You start. I got to think about this one.
Jeez. I can't say a favorite scene because there are so many memorable ones, but I'll say my favorite exchange of the whole film is when Darren McGavin first is talking to the guy bringing in the crate, and he asks, well, what is it? Oh, I have no idea. And then he's like, well, what's in the box? And then the guy just makes this face, this exasperated face. And I feel like that's another universal thing we've all had in dealing with someone who acts basically the same question, and obviously we don't know the answer. So why are you asking me again? It's that, and just how he got Darren McGavin's character gets the simplest word wrong. Fragile. Oh, it must be Italian. I just love that line, and it just is perfect, stupid, and simple comedy that works for the film, but is also relatable. And he just sees that as an award, for what we don't know, but he just keeps talking about it's a reward, for whatever he has done, and he's just so proud of it. He can't see how it upsets his wife, how ridiculous it is sitting in the window, but it's a sense of pride for him. And I guess it's his own Red Ryder BB gun in a sense for the holidays. So
yes. And oh God, this is like, asking somebody who their favorite child is. And I love A Christmas Story. And I just want to add this because every year they do a My Strange Addiction marathon. And you may have seen Mae Wilson and I on there. I'm the puppet girl. And so Christmas Story is always on when they do that marathon. And I just wanted to add that. That's another reason I love A Christmas Story. But and picking my favorite scene is like picking my favorite child. That's a hard one for any parent. But I have two. Obviously, when he opens up the box, the Fragile, the leg lamp, that's one. but also when Ralphie punches Scott Farkas and it's the mom and Ralphie, and you just want to hug Ralphie. Like you just want to say it's going to be okay, Ralphie, you know, and it just makes you love him even more. And then the entire movie after that, because how could you not?
I'm so torn because I think for the longest time it used to be when he actually shot his eye out with the BB gun, because I always remember that, and always, even when I played with BB guns as I got older, I always had that fear of actually shooting my eye out. I also would say when he stands up to Scott Farkas and like he gets a couple of good shots to make that kid bleed, and it's like even for a kids movie, it was pretty damn intense to see that. And definitely, I think arguably my favorite scene was the Chinese restaurant and cutting the duck's head off.
Oh, that's
Well, unfortunately, that ends us talking about A Christmas Story and our business for this week, even though we could talk about this film endlessly, obviously.
endlessly.
But as you know, there's always plenty of unfinished business to be had. And we want to thank April Bruckner and May, a friend of the show, for coming back on the show to discuss this film.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, no matter whatever you celebrate. Happy holidays.
Exactly. You have to check all bases, but the spirit and the emotion is there. And we bid you all adieu.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.